What is up, everyone? It is Grave Fiction here, and I wanted to talk about that time I started a Wattpad series.
What?
So, back when I had probably just turned 17 or 18, and after a few years of simply reading on Wattpad, I decided to try writing my own Wattpad story. Now, by the time I really got into Wattpad, I think it was slowly kind of like transitioning to what it has become now, but I was still there before it became, in my opinion, the dumpster fire garbage that it is now. Anyway, the story I wrote, it was called Forbidden, and unfortunately it is not really available anymore. But I do want to still talk about it because reflecting on it, and I still have the first chapter. Rereading the first chapter, pretty much all the memories of what I wrote hit me, and I was like, dang, if I had still had that story, I probably could have did like some tweaks to it and probably got through maybe 3 or 4 drafts, and the story would have probably been cool. Now, the idea that spawned Forbidden, it basically came from Teen Wolf, the series called The Chronicles of Vladimir Todd, and I think it was this young adult fiction story called I Hunt Killers. Those 3 stories pretty much primarily were the inspiration that kind of prompted me to write Forbidden, especially Teen Wolf, because I was a fan of Teen Wolf. Me and my friends, we used to watch it, and then like after every episode we would hit each other up and just like, oh, did you see what happened? So yeah, Forbidden was kind of like to fill that void after Teen Wolf kind of basically it ended. So Forbidden, it followed this character Carter Calloway, and he had a twin sister, Carson Calloway, and basically they came to this town called Shade Hollow, and the reason for that was because their mother wanted to basically remove them from the city that they were staying at, because there was a lot of issues there where people were kind of like upset, attacking the house. Why? Because allegedly his father murdered a couple of important people in that city. So boom, they moved to the town of Shade Hollow in order to kind of start fresh, and I think it was like in the middle of freshman year. So he was pretty much having to deal with like leaving behind his friends, and it's like in the middle of the year, right? And the story was going to deal with like a lot of supernatural things like witches, werewolves, vampires, demons, and I think there was a few other shapeshifters that I basically was on the verge of developing into the story. And that's all I can recall at the time for this, but it would deal with like drama, dating, sports, supernatural attacks outside of school, and just kind of like the family ties to the town, and some of the important families of the town interacting with one another, working together, or kind of going against each other. It was pretty much like that. And then I don't remember exactly how their magic worked in the story, but I do recall there being like spell books, rituals, and stuff like that. And I think remembering some of the key character dynamics. Well, of course, his twin sister Carson, they were going to basically have like this deep connection to where like they could sense when the other was like sad, excited, nervous, stuff like that. And another key dynamic was, of course, the mother, but also they had an older half brother named Cassius, who he was from their mother's like first relationship that kind of like fell apart. And Cassius, he didn't really like Carter or Carson. he didn't really pick on Carson too much, but he definitely picked on Carter a lot. And you would basically, throughout the story, you kind of saw that. And for Cassius, he was dealing with, okay, boom, this is his senior year. And just like how Carter, basically, it's in the middle of his freshman year. Where for Cassius, it's in the middle of his senior year. And he's kind of dealing with the dramas of that and just kind of adjust to that. But he did, unlike Carter, Cassius made like a bunch of friends very, very quickly. He even started dating a girl, and there's going to be like scenes where like Cassius will pick on Carter, like push him into a locker, take food off his plate when they're at home and stuff like that. But there were a couple moments where it was like Cassius kind of made it seem like he was trying to be a better friend, a better older brother or whatever. Like, I remember there was this one scene where Cassius was going to sneak out to go meet up with his friends and the girl he started dating. And he was like, you know what, you can come with me, blah, 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 show you how to be a man and stuff like that. And he takes Carter there. They're in the woods, hanging out by a campfire. And I think something happened to where like one of the friends kind of was picking on Carter, and then eventually there was an attack from a vampire that killed one of the friends, bit Cassie's girlfriend, and hurt Carter. And then after that, Cassius kind of started being a little bit more lax on the bullying, but there was stuff like that you was going to see in the story. Of course, the romantic side, it was like two girls that I think I introduced in like the first two chapters. There was Anna, the half vampire girl, and then this girl named Olivia, who was pretty much she had like this girl next door personality who Carter, he met her in school in his first day in school. And she was just really nice, chose to get to know him, talk to him. They ended up having similar classes together. And it started as a friendship. And plus, she would later develop a friendship with Carter's sister. So it's like, okay, boom, that's perfect. Like, you're friends with my sister. You're this really cool girl. But you also have Anna, who Carter has like this irresistible attraction towards her. Whether it be that she's this mysterious figure that he's never seen before, but he was constantly drawn to her. Now, he was very secretive about his relationship with her, but his sister Carson constantly knew that there was something going on with him being outlaid, disappearing, bailing on her and Olivia, stuff like that. So it was going to be things like that. And also, I think Carter, by like chapter 5, I introduced Carter's friend, who basically he would be Carter's best friend. His name was Jai, and he was a werewolf. And I think how I had the werewolves, they kind of were similar to like Teen Wolf, where like they didn't turn into like some crazy monster looking thing. Instead, they would get claws, hair would come up, grow on their face, and they would have their fangs, and their face would kind of like look a little bit more animalistic, but they wouldn't full on turn. So it was stuff like that. And I think one of for the first book, the major storyline was basically there was a demon that was basically using a vampire to cause a string of murders for some reason. Whatever the reason was, that was a big plot point in the first book. And then after that, I think the other books started to delve into stuff like Carter being descended from one of the founding families of Shade Hollow. And so some of the book titles was Forbidden. Then there was Forbidden the Founding Families, Forbidden the Originals, and then I think there was another one. I think there was a fourth one where Forbidden Blood is Everything, and then I think the last book was The Fight for Shade Hollow. Yeah. So yeah. That was the whole series, and it was going to introduce like different, like I said, different conflicts. Like I think the founding families was going to introduce some of the founding families, and there was going to be a conflict where one of the founding families, they were trying to basically like find some stone or do something that would basically put everyone in town in danger. So the other founding families were supposed to like sit their differences aside and come together and work together in order to stop this family. Then there was another one where the original vampires showed up, and there was going to be a whole conflict with them. Then I think another storyline had to do with the witches. And I think the last one was going to be, I think the demon that had got defeated in the first book, he returned somehow. And he was much stronger, and basically he was going to cause so much damage to the town. But yeah, it was going to be like this cool, crazy Wattpad story that inevitably did not come to fruition because I did give up on it. But it was an awesome idea. And truth be told, I may try to do it again. That is, if anyone is interested in it. So anyone watching this video, anyone that is like a genuine like fan that watches my videos and enjoys my content, let me know in the comments whether you want me to try to make that story happen again. Like, if you want me to try to write that story again, let me know. If not, then that's okay. But that's it for my story time. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Primarily subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on some of the things that I post, because I got a lot of projects coming, like the Cabin of Sins, which you can check out on Fictional Realm Studios YouTube channel. I have another project coming out called The Black Heart. Of course, I'm gonna have to keep pitching that to you guys until you guys say, hey, I am interested in The Black Heart. But yeah, all those things are coming soon. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have for today. Thank you. Signing off.